Hey everybody, I'm Stacy. I'm the owner and artist of New Creations by Stacy, and I'm an elite Dixie Belle retailer here in Ardmore, Alabama at the Rustic Willow. So we'll just give it a sec for some people to jump on, make sure that I'm live here. And actually I can take a look at my phone as well. Let me just see. I've had it a few times where I've come on and I wasn't really live, so just want to be sure before I get started here. Sometimes it takes a minute. Yeah, here we go. All right, so if you're just popping on, just say hey, where you're watching from. So before we get started, everything that we're going to be using tonight, I do have it listed in the product description. And you guys, I'm so excited to be back tonight. I had back surgery about 4 weeks ago, so I have not painted or been live since the 19th of April. Hey, Catherine. So we should have Dixie Belle. Oh, hey, Thelma. I know, I'm so excited to be back. Now I just want to be free of restrictions. There's so many rules. But anyway, so I'll try to watch the comments as they go, but it's a holiday, so I'm not sure if Dixie Belle's going to be on today or not, but they may be here to help answer some questions. I do have a link as well in the description to my Facebook page if you like and follow me on Facebook. Plus, you can see the finished product, and I'll have this one finished this week. And you guys, I was working on smalls here and there, so I did do a few videos as well. Oh, hey, Dixie Belle's on tonight. So you guys, I'm hoping to see a lot of familiar people again. But, so I just want to tell you, so my back went out back in April and I was working on a few projects. I actually did a live on this piece before. So you may have seen that, but we're totally redoing it because by the time I got back to painting, I just wasn't feeling it anymore. I don't know if I'm the only one that happens to, but, so anyway, we're going with a totally different theme here. This was pine, so I did coat it with 2 coats of clear Boss. I wasn't sure what color I was going with at the time. And then I ended up doing this funky, colorful boho Mediterranean thing. And I hated it by the time I got back. So I'm just going to talk about where we're at now, because I actually did 2 different paint jobs on here trying to get the creativeness back. So anyway, so we got the Boss on. Right now you're seeing driftwood and cotton on here, which is kind of the base coat for this paint job. And we've got the Sonoma Tile stencil that I used. It's hanging on the back wall here. I don't know if you guys can see it. But I did a raised stencil with Dixie mud on the drawers here. And then part of the stencil is like a border type of piece. So I've got that here and on the sides as well. So what we're going to be doing tonight, I've done this side. It's kind of a grungy, very textured, and we'll make this raised stencil stand out. But it's kind of a grungy, textured look. Haven't decided if I'm going to add rust or not, but this is kind of the inspiration for it. It's kind of just this rusty old drawer. So we will go ahead and get started. Now, over the raised stencil that I did in the brown Dixie mud, I did put a coat of protectant over this, just so when I start adding water and doing this kind of grungy blend, that it doesn't reactivate and start to smear with that. So to get started, what we've got going here. Oh, you guys, sorry about that. I think my internet might have dropped off for a second. But got a couple of colors we're going to be using here. So this is a custom mix of collard greens and palmetto. And what it does with the collard greens is just kind of bring out, that palmetto brings out the more green tones in the collard greens. So we're going to start with this color, and it doesn't take much paint here for this look. So I'm just going to get a couple spoonfuls out. Actually, let me twist you guys around so you can see a little bit what I'm doing here. And I'm going to drop you guys down closer to the piece too once we get started. So I've got a little bit of that out here. And then I've got another color here, which is kind of the same base. It's collard greens and palmetto. I really wasn't thinking of it either. And then I just had all these greens and I threw them together. And you guys, there's a color lab. So I like to mix my colors. I like to see how they're looking, how they turn out. But you guys, if you don't want to do that, there's a color lab. And you can go on Dixie Belle's website through the affiliate link there. You can get to it from there and find your local retailer too. But you can choose the color that you want, and then the color lab will tell you what colors to mix together to get that. So I actually probably put a little too much of the collard greens in here. So this mix is actually collard greens, palmetto, and then I added some mint julep in. And I'm really loving, really loving this color. I actually have a custom I'm doing, so I wanted to try these out first before I got started. So what we're doing is just a tad bit of pine cone. I'm debating on adding the rust with the metal patina paints, but right now I'm just kind of painting a little bit in to give it the backdrop. And then I'll decide. And then Terra Cotta. So we're just going to be using a tiny bit of these colors. Guys, my palmetto's almost out. But literally don't need but a dab of that. And I kind of meant to do this before I went live. Since we're using so many colors, I still have them in the jars, but kind of didn't get to it right away. Facebook changes all the time, and I was trying to figure out Facebook because it looks different when I go live now. So I don't know, maybe they updated while I was gone. All right, so this is our color palette here. So we've got our 2 custom mixes of green, pine cone, and Terra Cotta. And we're just going to be using, so to start off with, I've got 3 premium chip brushes here. And then also we're going to be using an art brush. And I've got my mister bottle because we want to keep this pretty wet. And let's go ahead and just work on this top section right quick. And then we'll just do the drawers and kind of go from there. I've got the wax out and everything. Let me bring you in now. In case we get to that part, but I'm not sure yet. So how's everybody doing tonight, you guys? Anybody working on some fun projects? Raised stencils. I love raised stencils. By the way, on the top here, I'm going to end up probably staining that a dark color over the paint. But, so I go ahead and give it another mist. It's been pretty dry here lately. So, I mean, I'm indoors. It's temperature controlled. So all I'm doing right here is just going along here and putting down some of this collard greens. And I'm dabbing it. This is a super textured piece. I did use sea spray on the original coat. So, and I really like it because I've got this base that's very light underneath of it. And because I'm only doing 1 coat of this, it kind of just peeks through. So now I've got my lighter color mist here. I've got my lighter color green mix here. And I'm going to come into kind of the highlighted areas, this rounded top. And I'm really just laying it down right now. And it's still dabbing. It's just all mixing together to create just different shades of these greens. So you get a lot more depth than just those 2 colors. All right, so now that I've got that on, I'm actually going to come back with my collard greens brush, and I'm going to kind of start just mixing that, doing a little blending, just kind of mixing that up so it blends. I don't want it too blended because I want to keep this texture that I'm created from the dabbing, but I kind of want it to flow together. So once I've got that on, we're just going to go in now. And because I need very little of this color, I'm just going to kind of dip just the tip of this art brush. And I'm going to wipe a little back off on my plate. And I'm just going to come in here and kind of dab it in. let's say I might want, you know, rusty. You usually see it just around the corners, like on this piece up here, like on the bottom, you see it really rusty there. So I've got that pine cone in. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of terracotta. So I want to leave it a little bit orange, but they're not orange and green are not quite opposites on the color wheel. They are, but red is the complementary color to green. So if you mix them together, it kind of makes a little bit of a brown. I'm going to come back in with one of my, not that one, with one of my green brushes now and just kind of mix that in. So it gets a little bit brown, but then I still have some of that little aged shaded look there. Oh, hey, Gracie. Oh, thank you. All right, so same thing on this other side. You know, I'm going to do a little bit in the cracks and crevices. I don't want it too matchy, but, you know, I want some of this. Kind of that's where you see like a patina is down in the cracks and the crevices. So we'll do a little bit up here along this line. And I'm kind of switching back and forth between my terracotta and the pine cone. And you see I'm wiping my paint back. And like I said, I was going to use the patina paints. You can do iron. And then use some of the spray. But I wanted a little bit more control. I'm kind of doing a little experimenting here. So that's why I kind of decided to stay, kind of paint it on first and then go from there. So once you get too much paint on your brush, you can just take a shop towel, they're lint free, and you can just kind of wipe it off. So that way you can do a little, it's a little bit easier to keep your colors separated. Let's do a little bit. And by the way, this top is taped off, so what you're seeing up here isn't even going to show. Let's just kind of blend that in a little bit so it's more subtle. And then that's it. So we're just going to move on down and do this drawer here. And like I said, I don't have to worry about the water on my mud because I put a coat of, actually use satin clear coat to create a barrier so that it doesn't reactivate. And this one, this is a larger area I'm going to be working with, so I will, have to probably spray it more than I did just that little top section. And right now I'm just kind of putting the collard greens in the recesses where you would, well, the collard green mix, and the recesses where you would see that, and you guys, I can't bend still, so I just, I get the phone, don't laugh, I get the phone out and I put the phone under here to make sure that I got all the paint coverage since I can't bend. So I'm just kind of hoping that I hit everything along under here and then I'll go from there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do these in some sections. And I'm going to have a knob here. It's probably going to be darker under the knob, so we'll just add that in. And let's go with our lighter. So I'm kind of dabbing this all over. And what happens, it's lightening up that mix that I had, but it's also creating a few more tones in this piece as well. I'm almost scared to go back and watch this, you guys, to see if I am really bending. I have a feeling I'm doing it a lot more than I realize. But the good thing is it's not hurting, so I think I should be okay. Let's see here. So you guys, I'm not seeing a lot of comments roll by, but if you do have questions and I'm missing them, I will go back at the ends. And if you guys jumped on late, this dark green that we're using, it's a mix of the collard greens and the palmetto. And then the lighter one is that same mix, but with some mint julep added in. And then we've got our pine cone and the Terra Cotta that we're kind of adding kind of the rest more so with. Maybe a little bit under where the handle would be, you know, that would kind of rest away over time. Do a little bit up here at the top. Let's go with a little bit of Terra Cotta too. Maybe just down in this crack right here. And then, now what I have been doing too, and I think I'm going to start now, I'm going to use my oval medium. And I'm going to kind of use it as a blending brush here. Let me set my paint up here. I'm going to kind of use it as a blending brush here. And I'm going to just start dabbing. Now in some spots while I'm doing this, it's pulling the paint back a little bit because it's so wet. And I want that because I like this lighter color kind of peeking through, really lightening up these colors. And I'll go back later too and add some detail to this raised stencil. Let me see if you guys, to get a steroid shot in my hip last week. I'm good most of the time now. Yeah, I've had the steroid shots too. Oh my gosh, you guys, they made me gain 20 pounds in the last 2 months from all the steroid shots. But they help. They do help a lot. All right, so there we go. Let's go ahead and just move over. So this paint job too, it does kind of take a little bit of time to do it because of all the details, but I'm only doing one coat. So it's not nearly, it's not full coats, just painting one color there. And same thing here. I do want to try to kind of be a little bit random. With the shading, a little bit dark there. We're going to come in with our lighter green. Super, not much paint at all. Just keep dabbing it. And you know, how you do this, I mean, is all in how you want it to look and how you like it. So you can put as much or as little as one of these colors as you want to. Just make sure I'm getting everything there. I'm going to come through and mix these up a little bit more. So now, my paint is getting a little bit dry. I didn't quite have as much water on here, so I'm just going to mist it, wipe kind of my oval medium here. Just come back in, start dabbing it, and you really just keep going until you like what you got. And I might have to do a few touch-ups, but definitely this should be my only coat. And we're just gonna come down here. Let's go all the way out with the rest, maybe a little bit. Do a little bit more down into here. And once this brush starts muddying up a bit too, I can come back in and just do the same thing, wipe it off. And I want a little bit more green to kind of fade this out some. There we go. And as this dries too, it's going to look very, very different. So it's going to look more blotchy as it's drying because the paint is drying at different rates. So you really want to, anytime you're blending or anything like that, do it and walk away. And, you know, you might be surprised once you come back. I've done it where I've loved it, and then when it dried, I thought, ooh, I can't stand that. And then I've also had those pieces that if I would have stayed in front of them, I would have completely redone them. You guys, hold on. Let me get over here a little bit. I just want to make sure that I can get this side. I can't lean, so sorry I'm in front of the camera, I know. Normally I would be able to lean over, sorry. let's see for a color I want to paint my buffet. I'm really loving your custom greens. Oh, thank you. You know, I don't know what it is about the greens. I love them, but I always want to make my own colors and mix them up. And it's particularly that way for the greens with me. And I think for my custom piece, which you'll probably see me start doing that live again here pretty soon. I think with the custom piece, let's see here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought while I was painting there. But with my custom piece, I think I might lighten these greens up just a little bit more. Kind of see how they look there. I'm going to add a little bit more of the collard green one here. And sometimes I get my brushes mixed up like I just did. And that's okay. There we go. And then we're going to come back in with this. And let's go. We got quite a bit of rust up here, so let's keep in that. And just kind of, again, where the hardware is. That's always the big one, where the hardware is. I think that's all I'm going to do for this section right here. So this is my brush that has no paint on it. If I wanted a little bit more green, I would have just kind of wiped one of these premium chip brushes off and come through that way. I do, however, want to put a few just more orangey dabs here and there, maybe a little bit down here. So when I'm doing this, I'm wanting that color to stay a little bit more pure, not to just mix in so much. But this is going to create that really great grungy look. Come back through here with wax, and it's really going to make everything pop. And by the way, you guys, down here, I have this taped off. So my original plan was to cut off that ugly 80s scallop. So this would look more modern. Then with my whole back situation, I can't use my power tools just yet. So as a result, I had to get a little bit more creative. And I've got some trim that I've put in. I don't think this drawer's on its runner, but that's okay. I've got a little bit of trim. Let's see here. That I put on here. I mean, if you want to see what it looks like, I did post a picture today on my page, just like a preview picture, so you can kind of go see what that is. But it really brings this Sonoma Tile stencil on this piece, and the whole feeling I want from this piece. It kind of brings it all together. So let me just, sorry again with my head. Just get over there some. I'm just going to line this out just to give it a hint of that green and that crack down there. I'm going to do the same thing up here. So what I'm doing is just holding my brush sideways and just working that paint into the crack. So now my knobs are actually going to be kind of under here. So we'll go a little bit dark. Let's do a little bit dark around this too. Maybe we've got another knob over here. It helps me to think, when I'm putting these colors on, it kind of helps me to think about like what my finish piece is going to look like, where I'm going to have, where that wax and that rest of that aging process. Let me just get this down here. My wax and the rest of that aging process is going to really be prominent. Put a little too much green, but that's okay. So I'm doing a larger area here. So I'll be adding more. And I'm actually going over this collard greens here. I want to lighten that up. I just want it to be a hint darker once this is all said and done. But to really work my colors together, because this is in a larger area, I'll mist it again and keep it kind of wet. Let's see. Just want to make sure I get the coverage on here before I start doing that. Just dabbing it all on. And very little paint. Goes a long way, especially when you're using the mister bottle. Get this over here. All right, so I want to mix these together a little bit just to kind of see what I've got going on. So we're going to start dabbing. And I'm probably going to start working a little bit more in individual areas. And see, I don't know that you can see this on camera, but when you dab and you're using a synthetic brush like I'm using right now, it has a different effect than when you're dabbing with the natural bristle premium chip brushes. And I'm hitting pretty hard here. I'm trying to get in all these little grooves and get the coverage along my raised stencil here. So now we're going to go ahead, spray this down again so I can really get some blending going on together in here. And it's just a matter of layering it until you're happy with where you're at. And I generally start doing this in smaller sections. This is where I'm using that shop towel to remove some of that excess paint. I just want to kind of bring these colors together a little bit. I'm not adding more paint. I still have got a little bit of the darker green on here. Come in with this. All right. And then let's go ahead and get a little pine cone there for about where that knob's going to be. It's kind of like it's dripping down that rust. Then let's do a little bit more kind of over here. Just give it a vague hint of that aging. And all these little different things, all these layers are what really give your piece that depth. You guys, I'm just going to put some of this kind of down around. Like I told you, I'm going to be highlighting all of these raised stencils. So just want to make it a little bit darker around there. No paint on here, just wiped it off. I'm going to kind of just work that in so it looks like just a little shadowing when I come along later and really highlight that. And then we've got, let's see here, we've got our other little knob. This is a little bit dry, so let's go ahead. And when you spray it, you're just reactivating that paint. So you can keep going. You guys are so quiet tonight. Either that or I'm just missing a lot. Before I finish, I'll scroll back through and see if I did like just miss some stuff. Let's see. We didn't do this top side over here either. So let's go ahead. We're going back in with the darker green. I feel like this just light. Want that a little bit darker. Gonna bring that in down here. Okay, and I want to do some rust stuff up here. And you know, sometimes like my brushes are really, the paint colors are kind of getting all mixed together. If that starts happening and you can't wipe it back enough for what you want to do, then you can stop and wash your brushes. All of these brushes were actually wet when I used them. The only real brush I like to absolutely have dry when I get started is if I'm doing like a smooth blend. I like to keep my blending brush as dry as possible. And once it starts getting too wet or too much of a buildup, that's when I will generally come back and I'm going to go under here with some of this. That's when I generally will come back and wash or switch out my brush. I usually keep a few on hand when I'm doing that smooth blend. Alright, so let me see. So it looks kind of weird right here just because there's no hardware or anything yet, and then that center section. But in my overall design, that will all come together. So you guys, if you want to, let's go ahead and we'll go on to the next step. I've got this side still that I need to paint over here, but my next step after I do this will be to protect this right here. And then once I protect, I'm actually going to do a brown Best Dang wax on it. And we're going to move it right over here. So this is the side where you can see the whole thing, kind of how that's looking, how that came out. Oh, and actually I had a couple spots on the side of this drawer that I couldn't see. And when I said I might have to go back and touch something up, that's it. So I've done a coat of, I didn't sand this because it's very, very textured. And I want to leave that on here. I'm fine with that. But I did do a coat of satin over it. So you can tell the difference in how it feels. Just even with that clear coat, it makes it a lot smoother. So I really want to, I'm going to be using, of course, gilding wax and everything else on here too. But I really want to first get into, you can use like a glaze, or you can use like one of the Best Dang waxes. I really want to get this into all the little grooves along here. I'm going to do probably an all over wax too. I don't know yet. But we're going to start here. And so I just put some wax on my brush. This is Best Dang wax. It is a water-based wax. So once it dries, if I would go back and I wanted to put patina on here, I could. But you want to let it sit for quite some time to let it dry. So I've kind of used the lid, swirled that wax around on my brush. And this is the La Petite brush, by the way. So I'm just really going to go over. I'm going to brush it all over here. All over this raised stencil. And I want the wax to pick up on all this texture too. So kind of just doing this up and down motion here. I really want to grunge this out. Right now I'm just working this wax in. I don't really care in this case what direction I'm going. I just really want to highlight some areas. I want to kind of fade it out. So I'm just dragging some of that wax over as I go. Go along right in here. And I'm just working it. You've got the tiny tip on the La Petite, which I really like. I'm just working it into that crack. Gonna bring it up all over the whole side. So you can let this wax set up, and it sets up pretty quickly. But I'm gonna go ahead and start taking some of this back because I want it to, I don't want to leave it like this. I don't want it to dry like this. I just want it to stay in the details. So I'm going to, this is just a lint-free cotton rag I've got here. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of wipe this out of the middle. So all of the raised areas, this wax is coming off of. But it's staying down in the grooves. It's something that's kind of hard to see on a video. but I'll bring you in for a close-up, especially on this raised stencil. So I'm just rubbing this off so that the raised portion of my stencil, I've got this busting wax off, but it's in all of those grooves. And you know what? I don't know. I may end up going back over this and adding some real rust with the patina paint because I knew it would kind of darken up with the brown wax, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I like it tomorrow because everything looks different whenever it dries. If you paint, you know. But that's it. That's just how I'm applying the brown wax. So you can really see. Let me bring you in close. And then once I put the stencil, what I'll do, really quick, and then I'll look at questions. What I'll do, so this is part of the Sonoma Tile stencil. I cut mine up. So what I'll do is I'll just put this right back on here, line it up. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'll go in with my gilding wax. Probably going to do some bronze to age it out a little bit more. And then just a little peak of gold here and there, like it was on there once and then wore off. But so you can see how it's really starting to make that stencil pop. Let me bring you guys in and down some so you can kind of really see how that detail looks, how that brown wax is like sitting in all those grooves. And like I said, this is all about the layers, so it's really going to start to come together and pop out more once you start getting all the details on. Oh, thanks, Marianne. Oh my gosh, how are you? I was thinking about you the other day. Actually, I think it's when I decided to go with brown wax. I always think of you now. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing good. All right, so that's it, guys. You can kind of see how it's already drying up and it's coming together a little bit more. Like in these areas with this up here, kind of how it's making it look a little bit aged. But that's it, you guys. Let me see if there's any questions or anything. And like I said, if you kind of want to see the whole piece and how it looks all together, you can just click the link in the description for my page. And it's literally the last post. Oh, thank you, Jana. Or Jana. Sorry if I said that wrong. Let's see. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions, you guys. Let's see. Well, I'm not. So I sell furniture, and technically, like with clear coat, I always want to make sure that it's overprotected. So I like 3 coats of protectant on. Now, whether that's 2 coats of protectant, and then technically the wax is a protectant. So if it's, 2 clear coats and a coat of wax, I'm fine with that. But if I'm only using clear coat, then I do like to do 3 coats. If it's mine, sometimes I don't do that many, but if I'm selling someone furniture, I definitely want to know that it's very well protected. I don't want them to have any. So you guys, I've lost internet there briefly again. Oh, what color I want to paint my buffet. Oh, yes. Oh, thanks. Yes. And you guys, part of these I mixed on the last live. It's like April 19th, but I hadn't been posted. So you just scroll down a little bit. You'll see the initial mixing there too. All right. So I don't think I had really too many questions, but again, thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And like I said, I will be posting this piece by the end of the week. I'll have it really probably in the next couple days. I'll have it finished. And I've got a few videos coming out as well for some of the smalls I did in the last month. I'm just so excited to be painting again. But thanks again, you guys. Take care. Have a great night. Thank you, Dixie Belle.